Let's talk about culture shock. Culture shock happens when you enter into a new area you've never been before and you're around people who aren't like you. And you know you've hit culture shock when you feel uncomfortable. And you also know you've hit culture shock when you're facing someone and you're not sure how to manage the interaction. When there's a distinct pause and you feel frozen because you're not sure how to proceed with interacting with a person or a group of people. That is the distinct, specific moment that you're having a culture shock. It's a moment where you think to yourself, what the fuck is going on? How do I do this? How do I manage that? When you're in that WTF is going on moment, you are in the core of the culture shock. That's the moment of realization that you don't know what's going on. You're not around anything familiar. Everything is unfamiliar to you. And how do I proceed? And so that's probably the best way to define culture shock. Culture shock is the moment where everything and everyone feels unfamiliar to you and you're not sure how to proceed. And it's a very specific moment in time, in travel that happens, and you have to move forward, but sometimes you're not sure how. And it's a beautiful thing because that's when you're forced to ask people for direction, and you're forced to come out of your shell, out of yourself, and into the larger cultural world. You're forced to extend beyond your culture into another culture in order to figure out how do you even interact with this culture, and what are the norms of that culture. So the first time you have a cultural experience where you have cultural shock, you're going to be nervous. You'll be afraid of offending. Maybe you'll start laughing out of discomfort. It'll feel weird, but it'll also feel exciting too, because you'll immediately notice that you'll not have any status anxiety. You won't feel like you have to really impress the people who you're unfamiliar with. You'll simply just kind of need to figure out how to communicate with them. And cultures meaning like groups of people who behave the same way, they all interact differently. Just looking at these, see burritos here, $4.49 burrito. I'm guessing that the chicken is not the best quality. It's a guess. I may be wrong. Anyhow, so yeah, you're trying to figure out how to communicate with these groups of people, and these groups of people all will communicate differently based on their cultural norms. And so you have to, one, figure out what that norm is, and then you have to engage with them. And if you engage with them on their level, it's gonna work out. It'll work out okay. If you try and engage with them on your level, they'll either be willing to work with you and understand that you're unfamiliar with their cultural territory, or they will be rude and not bend to your cultural norm at all, and it'll be basically a standstill. So it's a bit of a power thing. When they know your culture and they decide to not extend a helping hand in understanding their culture, then they make it more difficult for you. So that's a very clear line When people of a certain culture are more cultured than you, and they know that you're struggling and they don't help you at all, then they're just being assholes. Just plain and simple.